Welcome back to another episode of House of Cards. This is episode 25. We are a quarter century old now. Well, this episode is something that I think is very important, and I think a lot of people, even myself included, struggled with this a little bit when I first started getting cards and deciding which cards I wanted to grade. Grading cards is a very it's something that takes some skill, some sort of foresight, and also costs a lot of money. So it's something you don't want to really just jump into blindly. And I know a lot of people, recently have gotten into the hobby of come to the mindset of just grade everything, and while that can work in some cases where you might get lucky and a no-name rookie might break out and you have a graded card of him ahead of everybody else, probably 9 out of 10 times you're going to end up burning a lot of money on cards that really don't need to be graded. The main reason why is because there just isn't any value in the card after you kind of go through all the costs associated with getting that card graded. So today's video, what I'm going to go over with you is kind of the three main points of grading, right? So first and foremost, the card itself. So is the card and the player and the set, worth grading? Is that something that, you want to spend the time and the money waiting for to get back? And when you do get it back, the second part is going to be, is there some sort of a value proposition there that makes it worth it? Now, I'm not talking about people that collect or do set collecting or registry collecting. Not talking about that, because hey, if you got a player or a set or whatever that you collect and you want to get it slabbed just to have it as part of your collection, you can care less about selling it or making a profit or anything like that, then hey, more power to you. I do that myself, so I totally get it. But today, for the sake of what we're going over, we're looking at the mindset of more of the investor that is going to get cards graded to then sell to hopefully make a profit off of. And that is sort of where we're going to base it. So the third and final thing is going to be, condition, because just because you have a good card of a good player and a good set, if the condition is trash, then your card is not really worth much. So those are kind of the three main factors you got to kind of take into account when you're deciding, are you going to grade a card? Now, some cards are, obvious choices. Some cards might need a little bit more sort of scrutiny. So as we go through these cards, we're going to kind of look at each card with, those three kind of main points to determine whether or not I should send it in. So what I got here is a stack of cards from Beckett Marketplace. Beckett Marketplace, if you don't know, is a place where multiple card shops and dealers host a very, very large inventory of their cards for sale through the marketplace. A lot of the times they'll list it on the marketplace. They'll also list it on eBay. They'll also have it available maybe even on their website of their store. So it's just kind of another outlet for them to sell their cards. What's cool about the marketplace is that you can, shop across multiple dealers, and you can, save on shipping sometimes when they have, a minimum shipping requirement where you can get pay $0 if you spend over $25 or something like that. The bad thing about the marketplace is that you don't get to actually see the cards you're buying. So you're kind of buying blindly. They do have like kind of a grade, that they give the cards, whether it's mint, near mint, mint plus, whatever. So, but what I've noticed for the majority of people, they just keep it near mint. And sometimes you get cards that are beautiful potential gem mint cards, and sometimes you get cards that are not very good. So it's a little bit of a dice roll, and you can, finagle, and you can, put offers and do all that kind of stuff too. But for the most part, it's a pretty easy breezy place to kind of just browse around and see what's out there. So what I did a while back, probably, a couple months ago, is I started picking up some Shaquille O'Neal cards that I had some sort of interest in, or they at least were a rare insert or some sort of parallel that made sense to buy at a very low price. So what I'm going to do is these cards here, we're going to go through, and each one I'm going to kind of talk about in the sense of what I paid for it raw. And then we'll talk about, obviously how much it costs to grade. And then additionally, we're going to talk about, is this worth sending in after we factor in all of the, kind of things that make sense to send it or not. So that's what we're going to do today. And without further ado, let's get going. All right. Gonna get my microfiber little cloth here. So the first card we're going to go over today is this 1996 Topps Finest Sterling. This one does not have a coating on it. I actually removed it because the coating was pretty beat up, and that's what I recommend for any of the cards, you know, Finest cards or any, you know, 90s cards that have the protective coating is they're going to grade the coating the same as they would grade the card. So if the coating has a bunch of surface issues, scratches or bubbles or whatever it may have, I would recommend just removing it. Granted, it's better to keep it on if you can, but you also don't want to, you know, get a terrible grade just because the coating is messed up. So I took the card out of the coating, so it has a nice, clean, beautiful finish. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at condition. So the condition of the card, the first thing you'll notice is the centering is a little off. So left to right, left is heavy. So you're probably about... you're probably 65-35, maybe 60-40, but I would probably lean a little bit more towards 65-35. So automatically you're going to get a little OC on this. Top to bottom looks pretty clean. The surface, like I said before, is beautiful because it had the coating on it. Don't forget to check the back surface because that is where a lot of people miss things. And dents and dings and stuff mostly occur on the back is what I've noticed. So check your back really close. Check your corners. Make sure it all looks good. So I think, and again, we're doing speed grading here. I think this card could potentially get a 9, and that's kind of, you know, generally what you should think because most of the time that's the averages are going to be that, especially older cards like these. So a 9 seems like a pretty that's probably the top end. You know, it could be an 8, but I would say the 9 is sort of your potentials here. So with that said, let's go ahead and look at what the pop report looks like on PSA. So here we have it. So you'll see there's been 15 total cards graded of this card. 10 of them have gotten 10s. 3 of them have gotten 9s. 2 of them gotten 8s. So what that tells me is it grades pretty well. If 10 have gotten 10s. And again, this is without coating. There is another pop report with coating, but since this one doesn't have it, we're sticking to this one. So, okay, well, that tells me I feel pretty confident that at least we'll get a 9 because it grades pretty easily and there isn't any significant damage. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what this is selling for currently on eBay. And again, these are not sold. So I don't want you guys to think that these are the prices that they sold for. These are prices that have been listed. So again, take it with a grain of salt. There might be a reason why it hasn't sold, you know, or it's still listed is because maybe it's slightly overpriced. So just assume that maybe it's, you know, 10-15% overpriced. But at any rate, $45.99, $4 of shipping. So you're looking at about $50 for this card in a 9. So, you know, let's do the math. Now, here's what I paid for it. I paid $3.60. So pretty good deal, right? Okay, so $3.60 into it. We're going to go ahead and grade it, and we are going to do it at the rate of $10 a card. And let's see here. That is going to cost us, actually, sorry, $12 a card. So now we're about, let's just call it $16 into it with the potential of selling it for $50. Let's assume it's probably going to be closer to 40 once we sort of figure out, you know, all of the good news in there. So $40, let's think about how much that would cost us minus fees, right? So take another, we'll just keep the math easy and call it 10%, right? So we actually walk home with $36. Okay, $36 for a car that, you know, I'm basically into it for $14. So there's a $24 profit margin on the card. Is it worth it? Yeah, I think it's not bad. And it's a cool card too. You know, this is, you know, Shaquille O'Neal, you know, really kind of 96. You're talking about, you know, just got to the Lakers, you know, the top Sterling is a cool, you know, insert to this set. So I think it's cool. I think it's something that could be worth it. You know, a low cost card is, you know, it's okay as long as you can make a margin on it. It doesn't always have to be, you know, cards that are worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. There's definitely stuff that you can get for a really good price. So it's $12 a card to grade this. $3.60 into it, so $15.60. So again, $40 out the door, $36 after fees. So you're making about $21 on it. So we'll go ahead and we'll put this in the yes pile. Okay, the next card we're going to look at is this. Very cool card here. I like this card a lot. And this is a cool card because this isn't a card that you see very often. This is a card that comes up here and there. This is the 1998 Upper Deck Ionics, and this is the reciprocal. So this is actually, there's two, the regular and then there's the reciprocal. So the reciprocal is the kind of the special edition here. This card is numbered out of 750. So right out the gate, remember, I always preach about grab cards from the 90s that are numbered, that are short printed, whatever it is. These are great cards. So this card is not very common. So let's look at the card first. Make sure that the condition we feel good about. This one does have a little bit of a slight bow to it, but nothing that's going to cause it to, I mean, you can see it there, but that's kind of within scope of normalcy. The surface looks great. It's a little bit thicker stock too, so you're not going to have any like real big issues with that. Surface on the back looks solid. Now the centering, these cards are hard to tell because I, just don't have much experience, and there's really not much to go off of as far as like graded versions of it. So I'm going to assume that, this should be sort of centered left to right, top to bottom, the little Ionics logo there. So it looks pretty decent. So I would assume that the centering is fair. So overall, this card looks sharp. Corners are clean, sharp, edges look clean. And all right. I mean, I don't see how this card wouldn't get a good grade. So let's pull up the pop report. All right, there it goes. So you can see this card has only been graded 3 times, 2 10s and 1 9. So that tells me that it's got a pretty good chance of getting a 10, which is awesome. There is no comps that I could find for an actual graded card that was for sale. So here's one that is on sale at ComC for about $30. So, a $30 raw card in a PSA 10 of a iconic player like Shaq that's numbered, I could see that fetching probably a couple $100. I think that's about the right rate for it. So I do think we could probably list this at a couple $100 and feel pretty confident that that would sell at that price. So let's go ahead and see here. I paid $15 for this raw. So $15 plus the $12, $27 all into this with a potential, and again, hard to do without, real like comps to go off of, but with a potential to sell it for a couple $100. Now you're talking, a nice $173 potential profit before fees. So let's take another 17 or $20 off that. So about $150 profit potentially for this card if it gem mints at a 10 and it sells at $200. So I think this is a definite yes. I'll put that over to the pile. That one might actually end up in my PC and not go to grading. That's just a cool card. All right. Next, we have the 1996 SPX die cut. This is the gold hollow. So you can see the gold trim. There's different levels to this one, but I think this one has the base and then it has the gold as far as I can remember. So let's first do a quick inspection because these die cut cards are tricky, and especially with the holograms because they just have such a tendency to scratch and to do all kinds of craziness. The sleeve didn't want to come out, but here we go. You can see Shaq in the background looking all Shacky. All right, so the front looks pretty clean. The centering is pretty decent. You can kind of, make sure that the thickness of the edges are about the same. And no major issues on the front. There's a big fingerprint that I got to wipe off, but besides that, looks great. Now the back is where we have issues because you have that dark border, so you're going to see some chipping right here on this edge. That is the only issue that I see on the back, is just this little bit of chipping right here. So I'm guessing this is maybe, let's just play out worst case scenario here. There's maybe one other issue, so we'll take it down 2 notches to an 8. So I think an 8 is a fair number to go off of. And let's go ahead and look at what that is in pop reports. So here's the card, and that's the gold. So you're talking 34 total grades, 11 10s, 19 9s, and 3 8s, and 1 7. So being conservative, let's call it an 8. And let's see here. I do have a comp for this. The comp does show this at a 9 here, and this is at a 9 selling, and again selling, not sold, selling for $345. So let's just assume it's overpriced because it hasn't sold yet. I don't know how long it's been on here, but we'll just assume maybe it's slightly overpriced. So maybe we'll knock it down to say $250 and call it good. So $250 at a 9, so that means that an 8 is probably about half of that, right? So we'll call it $125. So if this comes back in 8, potentially sell it for $125. All right, and let's see what we put into it here. All right, so I bought this for $8.90 raw. So $8.90 plus 12, we'll just round it up, call it 20 bucks. 20 bucks into it, the potential to sell it for 120 bucks at an 8. I think that's a pretty solid move there, about $100 potential profit before your fees. So we'll call it a $90 potential profit. Again, nice card, iconic card. It's a short printed parallel. I think this will do great. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep that in the yes pile also. Getting a lot of yeses here. All right, next we have the 94-95 Flir Ultra Power in the Key. Ooh. These cards are really cool. The 94-95 isn't as cool as the previous year because the card doesn't have all the foiling and the really cool kind of just, you know, touches that the previous year had, but it's still a cool card with that design. You got the shoe in the background, and then you got a little bit of foiling here, the name and the key and the Flir Ultra. But you got Shaq in his Orlando jersey because it's still 94-95. It's a cool card, but as you probably saw there were some issues. So we have a little bit of a push right here. You got a little bit of a corner lift right there. And, a little bit of whitening on the bottom corners as well. Not too bad, though. Potentially this could get an 8, but that would be maybe pushing it. But for the sake of argument, we'll call it an 8 just because that'll be easy. There isn't any major, surface issues. There's no, giant dents in it or any, rounded corners, just a couple white corners with a little bit of a push in at the top. So with that said, let's look at the pop report here. So here we go. So 75 total graded, so fairly decent grade amount for these inserts. 19 10s, 38 9s, 15 8s, and then 1 of 7 6 and 5s. So with 15 8s, I could assume that this might be an 8. The centering also looks pretty good, so that should carry it through to being an 8. The sales on this is tricky because there's not too many, so the only comp I could find in a grade was a 9, and it is for sale. Again, not sold, but for sale for $195.99. So an 8, let's assume half of that probably. So let's just we'll call it an even $100 to make it easy to do math. So $100 potentially, and again, it has to get an 8. Let's see what we bought this for. Bought it for $1.34. So, sometimes when you get these things, you're just like, well, shoot. I got it for $1.34, even if it grades a 7, let's just say, and we can maybe sell it for, say, $30-40, right? We're into $1.34, $12 to grade it. You're into it for $13. You sell it for $40, you're up $27, $26. So I can still see this as being a potential grading candidate because, again, Shaq, he's only going to get more popular as time goes on. Early card of his, this is only his 3rd year. He's a rookie in 92. So this is an early Shaq and a really cool 90s insert, which, of course, are really popular right now. So, again, I think we'll put that in the yes pile for now. Okay, moving on. I love these cards. Actually, one of my earliest inserts I bought was a Kobe Apparitions, which I'm excited to get back one day. But this is the Topps Chrome Apparitions. So this is a special insert that they did. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they did it for a couple years, but this was the 98-99. Really cool card. we'll look at the condition of it here. So surface is always an issue on these cards because it has so much going on, and the chrome finish, while it's protected, it also gets scratched pretty easy, but it's looking pretty clean. I'm not seeing too much. Your corners are beautiful. The whole front of the card looks beautiful. Centering looks pretty darn good. You're looking for the spacing between that letter and the edge and that letter and the edge. Pretty comparable. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I would say it's within the tolerance. And your back, again, you're looking for surface issues. Don't see any dents, don't see any dings. So that's good. Corners on the back look good. Edges look clean. So I think this card could easily get a 9, potentially a 10, but we'll call it a 9 just to, you always want to kind of lean on the side of 9s because that is typically what you're going to get if the card looks good to your eye. And if you get a 10, it's just a bonus. So let's go ahead and check out the pop report on this. So this only surprisingly, this is really surprising to me, only been graded 16 times. So out of those 16, 13 10s and 3 9s. So that tells me my odds of getting a 10 on this are pretty high. So I don't foresee this, looking the way it looks right here without any issues, foresee this getting anything lower than a 9, but we could probably even make an assumption it's a 10. So the only comp I found was a raw, which doesn't really do us much good because this raw actually is pretty bad looking too. But if there's more than one raw too, just so you know, I pulled kind of a median price. I'm not pulling the most expensive or the cheapest, kind of pulling a median. So at raw, it's going for about 15 bucks in poor condition. So let's just assume that this grades out a 10. Usually you can get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times raw price on graded cards. However, we'll be conservative and we'll say it's 100 bucks graded at a 10. So if this is a 10 and it was raw for 15, that sounds about right. It's about 6 times, 6.5 times, whatever you want to say. So let's look at the price that I paid for it. Okay, I paid $7.12. So add your $12 grading fee, so round it up, call it 20 bucks. If I can get 80 bucks, and even if it comes back a 9, I can go and get 50 bucks. I'm still up, quite a bit of money on that. So it's a cool card too, and I think these cards will look real stunning in the slab. So I definitely think this is gonna get a yes. All right, next card. So this is the 96-97 Flir Ultra Gold Medallion Edition. This is a parallel that came in a few different parallels, but the gold is like the second best. There's also platinum, which is the premium one. So let's take a look at condition here. So the centering on this right away looks pretty good. You want to look at the difference, the edge from the edge of the banner to that side, which looks about right. And you can also use the Flir Ultra on the top. Make sure the top to the left to right is, the right to the top is about the same distance. So it looks pretty good. Your corners look good. Your edges look good. However, look at the shine in there, and you'll see a few little spots where it looks like it's kind of worn off a little bit. So that's instantaneously going to take you down quite a bit on your grade. Probably too much to make this worth it. Back of the card looks clean. Yeah, I mean, everything about this card looks good except for that, which again, I just don't think that's, you're going to have a shot with that. So let's go ahead and just look at this card's statistics anyways, because why not? So, wow, very, very low pop. You can see these cards only been graded 4 times. 1 10 and 2 9s, and then 1 5, I think that is. I don't know. Jeez. It's pretty bad. So, I mean, if I was to guess, this one would probably get an 8 just because they would nick you for that, and then everything else on it, though, looks pretty clean. So, the only comp I was able to find was a raw copy of this for sale for about 10 bucks. So again, assuming this was a 10, you maybe can get 60, 70 bucks for it. Again, with this going down to an 8, you're now talking, you're in the ballpark of like $10 to $20 probably. So, after you grade it, spend 12 bucks there. Let's see what I paid for it. I only paid $2.50. So still though, you're into about 15 bucks, and you'll maybe get that much back if you sell it. So it's kind of a break even. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the no pile. Our first no. Okay. This next one I actually really like a lot. This is a cool, I'm gonna move this so you can kind of see the card a little bit better. This is the 96-97 Upper Deck Record Collection. So really cool insert. Yeah, just reminds me of just like the Tower Records, and I don't know, it's just a really cool card. I wish this card was in a slightly better condition. I will show you here. It's cool too because they actually have the little, like, I don't know if you can see it in the light there, but you see like it's like the actual record. So it actually has like the record. So I mean, again, in hand, this card is 100 times cooler than it is in pictures. But you'll see right away there's a little bit of, yeah, let's put this back. There's a little bit of whitening on the bottom corner. A little bit there. The rest of the surface though is pretty good. No dents, no dings. And then the back, again, this card is hard. I mean, the front is all black and the back is all red. So getting this, you know, really clean is tough. So the back is not bad. Again, the corner, the same corner that we pointed out on the front has, you know, just a slight issue with it. Little slight issue over there. I mean, it's not terrible, definitely. I would definitely wouldn't, it definitely is not going to get a 10. I think on a good day you'll get a 9, and on a bad day you'll get an 8. So let's go ahead and look at what this does pop-wise. It's a pop 2, guys. Wow. So pop 2. And again, you got to think about pops too, because it's not always like just a pop is great, no matter if it's low. Sometimes you got to assume that sometimes it's low because it's not, no one wants to grade the card. But when you're dealing with a player like Shaquille O'Neal, you know, you kind of get around that, because I think most people realize that Shaq is, you know, he's a Hall of Famer, he's an all-time great, he's still very relevant, he checks all the boxes, right? So this card just might not be very common. So pop 2, 1, 9, and 1, 8. So again, if we got an 8 on this, we would be the second one. If we got a 9 on this, we would be the second one. So pretty cool card. And let's kind of look at the only one I was able to find, which is actually great because it's right in between the two grades that I think it might get. So it's a BGS 8.5. Now again, it's for sale for $250, starting bid at $250. But of course, no one has bid yet with just under 4 days left. Who knows, that might change, but even though it might be slightly overpriced. So we could probably, let's make an assumption, $150 to 200. We'll say 150 to be more modest. 150 bucks. Let's just say we get it back at an 8, and we can maybe sell it for 150 bucks. You know, let's see what we spent on it here. All right, so I spent 10 bucks on it. So it's not bad, and you know, $12 fee, 22, maybe 150 sell. You're making, you know, after your fees and everything, you're you know, maybe making 100 bucks. So it's it's still a great I think investment to go ahead and get this graded. So awesome card. There is a raw copy on sale for eBay right now for about 28 bucks. So that tells me that's about right, because you know, raw copies are usually, you know, you're gonna gem mint 10 about, you know, between 7 to 10 times what the raw typically sells for. So yeah, I can see about 200 bucks being about right for a 10. I think this guy at the 8.5 has a way overpriced at 250. But at any rate, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the yes pile. Next, these cards are crazy. The 1997 SPX. This is the Parallel Sky. There's a few other parallels too, but this one is, I think, the second hardest one to get. I have to double check that, but this is the Sky. So let's check this out. Again, these cards are hard. You got double whammy here. You got die cut and you got a hologram. So 2 chances for it to have an issue with it. So the first thing I notice is this little shine there, so I'm just going to want to make sure that's part of the picture and not a defect on the card. But overall, surface is not terrible. I don't see any major issues with it. There's not really that much scratching on the hologram, which is rare. Like a Shaq, hello. And we'll check the back. Chipping is not terrible either. So usually the edges will chip out on these because it is a dark border, but looks pretty clean. I mean, very slight chipping, but I mean, it's next to unnoticeable. Edges are good, corners are decent. So again, I think it checks out pretty well. I could assume a 9 potentially on this. Again, it's a thick card though. You can see how thick that stock is. So thick cards, you know, always have a little bit more troubles than the standard size. So let's look at the pop report on the Sky. So again, super low pop, 4 total graded, 110, 19, and 2 8s. So, you know, lean on the side of a lower grade. So I'm just gonna guess a 9 on this. There was no comps for the actual Sky. Here's one for sale that's the bronze, which is actually a lesser value parallel than the Sky. So they're asking 75 by it now. So again, it's for sale, so it hasn't sold yet. So we could assume that's maybe high for the bronze, but let's just say 75 for the Sky, because Sky is a better parallel. So 75 bucks, right? If we wanted to sell it at a 9, which we're hoping to get. And let's see what we're into it for. So we're into it for $3.75. So plus your 12 grading, so you're into it for 15, selling it for 75, minus fees, say 68, and you're into your 15. So you're making about a $50 and some change profit. So I think it's a great investment, and definitely can get this get that graded. So not too shabby. All right, we only have a few left, so let's power through these. All right, next we have the 95-96 Flir Ultra Scoring Kings. This is a cool set, and it's definitely a hard one to get in a good grade. One thing to note too, there's 2 versions of this. There's the regular Scoring Kings, and then there's this one, which is the hot packs. So you'll see that red stamp right there. That's the hot packs, and that actually is a more valuable card because it's not as common. So I'm not really sure what the specifics are around how frequent the hot packs were, or if they were just like a separate set or pack that came in it. But anyways, all I know is that it's not as common as the regular one without the hot packs. So looking at the front, surface looks good, corners are good, don't see any major issues there. Back, got a couple light surface issues. You guys can't really see that, but there's a little slight surface issue there. It's not a dent, it's just like a little thing. And there's a light scratch there, but again, very minimal. And the centering looks good. You want to check your left to right there. The spacing looks about right. Your bottom to right looks good there. So I think the centering is good. So I think let's be generous and call it a 9 with a little bit of light surface scratches on the back. Could come back an 8, but for sake of argument, we'll just go with a 9 here. Here's your pop report. 12 total graded, 2 10s, 5 9s, 5 8s. So again, you're probably going to be in the 8 to 9 range per the averages, and it's not terrible. So I think that's probably where we'll land. And there is currently a 8 for sale. So let's just play it out. This is an 8. Let's just pretend that it's comped out well. So 135 selling, and let's see here. Let's what we paid for it. So paid $3 for this plus 12, so 25. We're into it. Let's just round it down to $100 since this hasn't moved yet. $100 sell, 25. I'm sorry, $15 into it with grading fees. So minus your $10, you got $90 of total profit, and not profit, total sales, and minus your 15. So you got a $75 profit margin on this card. So definitely we'll put that in the yes pile. Couple left. All right, this is the 96-97 Topps Season's Best, and you might see it listed as the En Fuego, but it's kind of an interesting insert because it has that really like wild print on it. It's like a wave sort of print, right? Kind of like the waves they use in prison now, but it's on a thinner stock, so it's not super thick. It's the regular Topps, not Topps Chrome. And let's look at the front. Your centering, you are just a smidge off left to right. Your left's a little bit heavier, but not too bad. I think you're within tolerance, so I think you can still get away with a gem on this. Corners on the front look good. Surface looks good. Let's look at the back. That's where you're going to probably have some issues. There is a slight little dent right there. And there's a slight, the edge issue, very, very, very light, but there is a small little edge issue there. But yeah, I mean, that dent is very, very small. Very, 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 very small. So, you know, maybe a 9, best case scenario, probably realistically an 8 because of the small dent and the edge issues. So with that said, let's look at what the pop report is. So graded 21 times, 1210, so very, very high gem rate, over 50%, 6 9s, 2 8s, 1 7. So I do think, you know, there's a really good chance that this could probably get a higher grade than an 8, maybe a 9, depending. But here's one. I only found a basic raw version for about 14 bucks. So that's about median price. 14 bucks, you know, let's just call it easy, $100 at a 10, 50 at a 9. And if it's an 8, we'll call it 25 bucks. So 25 bucks, and well, let's see what we're into it here. We are into it $2.88. So add your 12, grading 15 bucks into it, maybe sell it for 25. Oof, I mean, you're only making a $10 profit. So again, is it worth it? Or is it easier just to go ahead and sell this raw since I only paid $2.80 for it? Maybe I can sell it for 10 bucks, make an $8 profit. It's about the same what I would make grading it. So I'm gonna put this in the no pile. It's a cool card. I wish it was in slightly better condition, but you know, it is what it is. All right, our final card. One of my favorite sets, 96, 97 Skybox EX 2000. Love this set. I recently picked up the Allen Iverson. This set is extremely hard to get good grades in. It's just, there's just so much going on with it. There's so many elements to this set. It's literally like, oh, I mean, the gem rate's got to be like 10% on this thing. So first thing you want to look at is centering, which your left to right is definitely off. Your right is a lot heavier. So you're definitely losing there. You got a little weird mark right there. And a little bit slight corner raise, very slight, but you can kind of see it there in the light. The window looks pretty good. The silver border too around this is usually an issue, like it gets pushed in because it's like raised differently than because this is like plastic and then it like connects right there, but it doesn't look too bad. And again, these sets are, most people understand that these sets just, you're not going to get 10s. So again, I think kind of the average grade on this is probably an 8, to be honest with you. There's another weird little mark there. Yeah. So if I was a betting man, I would say this card would probably get a 7. It's an awesome card. I love this set, but again, it's not also very expensive quite yet. It hasn't quite gotten there. So let's look at the pop report. 25 total graded, 5 10s, 8 9s, 11 8s, and then 1 7. So the 8 is the average grade. That's, you know, just under 50% of your grades are 8s. 5 out of 25 10s, which is 25%, which is actually a little bit higher. Sorry, 20%, which I thought is actually higher than I thought. I thought it'd be like 10%. And let's see, look at some comps. There is nothing graded comp wise. So, best I can find is raw versions. Again, this raw looks about the same as this one as far as like the quality of it. So $9 raw. So again, let's just say best case scenario, this is $100. And that's very generous for a 10. So 50 for a 9, 25 for an 8. This potentially could be even less than an 8. So, you know, you're getting down to the real bare bones. So I paid here $3.88. So $12 grading, $15 all in, potentially $25 graded sales. So only a $10 profit. Being only $3 into it, I could turn around, maybe sell it for 10 bucks. I would rather just take that quick, you know, a quick flip and take the $7 profit and call it a day, instead of going through grading and waiting and tying up money and all that good stuff. So we're gonna put this in the no pile. All right, so that's all of them. That was a quick, just kind of how I go through my grading judgments and whether I should grade stuff or not. So we'll kind of just recap the different cards here that we're gonna send in. And what I also do is I always make sure I record what my guess is on what the grade will be. So when I do get the grades back, I can compare that to what I actually got. So that way I can learn and, make sure, I get better at understanding, potential grades for cards. So I'm going to get these ready to go off to PSA, and I will be back with another video soon. So until then, peace.